Local history is important in relating the lives of current residents to those of past residents here in Montgomery County.
You got to compare it now and then and just see kind of how's everything different.
Well, I'm just simply very curious about what happened before me.
Without preservation, we tend to lose the grip on where we came from.
It forms a bond amongst you and your neighbors.
It's nice to see what life was like in the city where I've grown up in.
Many of the people in Montgomery County are new to the area, and they are interested in finding out what we used to look like, how we used to function.
I'm a new immigrant from China. I'd like to know more about the place where I live.
I'm very interested in sort of what happened legally in terms of forming the county, in terms of how the land developed.
There's just so much ordinary history out there, and a lot of people don't think about how that's interesting or important, and I think it really is. It really helps show that humans are humans everywhere.
In the afternoon, I had a hearty cry over my arithmetic.
I also like learning what they did here and what they use for fun.
This really, I think, makes it real for them to understand.
And when people understand their background and their common history, they tend to work together more in community. I immigrated from England and arrived in Charles County, Maryland in the 1660s.
The Montgomery County Historical Society has a simple mission: to collect, interpret, and promote the history, heritage, and culture of Montgomery County, Maryland. But doing that can be complicated, given the county's demographics, its size, and its proximity to Washington, D.C. A stone's throw from our nation's capital, Montgomery County often gets overshadowed by its powerful neighbor. Yet, the county has its own fascinating and layered story. Did you know that one of the first observatories to measure the Earth's wobble is located in Gaithersburg? It was built in 1899. Did you know that Josiah Henson, the man who inspired the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, lived and worked here? Or that until 1791, the port of Georgetown was part of Montgomery County. Let's go back even further. Montgomery County was formed the same year as the United States, 1776. It was named after a Revolutionary War hero, General Richard Montgomery, who died in battle. In fact, we join 18 other counties across the country with the name, and a local school. Back in 1776, Maryland's Montgomery County was home to farmers and patriots, slaves, and Susquehannocks. The main crop was tobacco. By the end of World War II, a burgeoning suburb began alongside huge government agencies and national research laboratories. In 1960, the first regional shopping mall in the D.C. area was built here. The Capitol Beltway opened in 1964, connecting it all. Today, Montgomery County comprises nearly 500 square miles. An important business and biotechnology center, it includes Fortune 500 companies, major universities, and bustling city centers. All the while managing to preserve its rural roots, cultural resources, and natural areas. The most recent census reported a population of close to 1 million people, who come from all over the world. The census showed 47% white, 17% black, 17% Latino, and 14% Asian, making us one of the most diverse counties in the country. So how do you tell the history of both descendants of British royalty and new immigrants from South America? What educational programs appeal to 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds?
This is the beginning. We can see what we have, what we need to do.
How do you find and train great volunteers?
I portray a county resident named Mary Victorine Key Scott Robertson.
And where do you put all the stuff?
Sarsaparilla, a permanent cure of all diseases.
Out in the country.
Don't worry, the Montgomery County Historical Society has it figured out. The Montgomery County Historical Society, or MCHS, is located in Rockville, Maryland, the county seat. It supports 2 museums, a research library, and education and outreach programs. With more than 1,000 members, the Historical Society is a private, non-profit organization that relies mainly on grants and donations to operate.
As director of the Montgomery County Historical Society, I act as the liaison between the board of directors and the staff, assist the board in developing policy, implement their directives, help craft the budget, raise funds, and act as the ambassador to county government and the public at large. Many counties have historical societies and they all do great work, but I haven't found one that's more active than MCHS.
The entire town of Rockville.
The MCHS was founded in 1944 by Lily Moore Stone, who was very active in civic organizations, including the DAR. She was also a respected businesswoman who operated a stone quarry for more than 30 years. Mrs. Stone also designed the county flag, erected road markers of historical sites, and at age 91 began publication of the Montgomery County Story, which is still in print. The initial goal of Mrs. Stone and her friends was to preserve an agricultural history in a landscape that was rapidly changing, but they were also interested in collecting artifacts. Meetings were held at her house in Potomac, but the members soon discovered they needed more space. After years of looking for a permanent museum, in 1965 the organization moved to the 3-acre Bell Dawson site. It is owned by the city of Rockville and operated by MCHS. Besides the Bell Dawson House, the campus includes the Stone Street Museum of 19th Century Medicine, the Jane C. Sween Research Library, and the Society's administrative offices. Free parking is available on the street or in an adjoining lot, and the facility is near the metro, bus lines, retail, and restaurants. The Bell Dawson House, circa 1815, is an outstanding example of the Federal-style architecture. On the National Register of Historic Places, the house was built by Upton Bell, the clerk of the court. This was a fancy residence that reflected its owner's wealth and stature in the community. But it also became a house of ordinary people. The 3 Bell daughters lived in the home for their entire lives. Later, the house passed to cousins, the Dawsons. Over the generations, more than 100 people resided there, including family, relatives, slaves, servants, and boarders. The house remained in the family until 1946, when it was sold to the Davises, who updated and restored it. In 1965, Mrs. Davis sold it to the city of Rockville, who in turn invited MCHS to make it their museum. It's now both a historic house museum and a gallery for changing exhibits on the county's history. Visitors are invited to learn what life was like way back when.
You guys can use your imagination. When this house was originally built, there was a doorway here instead of a window.
We're looking at history, we're looking at how people keep themselves entertained, and generally just comparing then with now for the purpose of writing about it.
I think it's really interesting to learn about history because it's technically part of our history, like how we came to this place.
Upton Bell got married and then his son Edmund died.
My favorite part about this museum is the Dollhouse because it's really cool and it's kind of like a mansion.
That's right. Dollhouses, toys, musical instruments, artwork, ceramics, kitchenwares, farming implements, and a large collection of 18th and 19th century furniture are on display. The collection consists of more than 10,000 objects.
So as Director of Collections, I'm in charge of our artifact collections, all 10,000 plus artifacts. When new donations come in, we catalog them, we write all the paperwork down to make sure everything is above board and legal, enter them into our database, and house them. That's the term for storage.
I am a master's student at George Washington University in Museum Studies, and I'm doing a volunteer collections management internship here at the Society, which basically means I am inventorying and then cataloging all of the artifacts in the basement storage area. box from, it's 4 from shelf V3. So this looks like a nice syringe set.
And I do a lot of research on what we have, going out and looking for new things, dealing with people who want to donate things to us. We don't take everything that's offered, but we do take a lot of new things in every year. So it's always a surprise. There's always something fun to open a box and say, oh, is that what that looks like? That's snazzy. I think that's Shirley Temple's.
Is that a raincoat?
It's a little raincoat.
Oh, it's a raincoat. That's cute.
See, we think American Girl dolls are new, but
not particularly.
We still had to make sure Shirley was well dressed. Well, in the Bell Dawson House, we have an exhibit gallery. Right now, the exhibit that's up is on women in Montgomery County during the Civil War. Stories that haven't been told, and that's always the point of our exhibits, is to get more things out there to let people know what we have, what there is to learn. Also in that exhibit, we do have a few stories about African American women locally in the Civil War.
Many African Americans lived here throughout the history of the house. We have 2 rooms in the house set up as slave quarters. We have it set up for how we think it would have looked during their time living in the house. But also, this house has been around throughout the Civil War, and after slavery was abolished, Margaret Bell, the owner of the house at the time, sold lots of plots of land and gave plots away at the far end of the property, which formed the nucleus of the African American neighborhood here in Rockville.
This is the Stone Street Museum of 19th Century Medicine.
This one-room doctor's office was built in 1850 for Dr. Edward Stonestreet of Rockville. He served as one of the town's doctors until his death in 1903. In 1972, Dr. Stonestreet's office was donated and moved to the grounds near the Bell Dawson House. During the 51 years of his practice, medical knowledge and technology underwent many radical changes, and the Stonestreet Museum offers changing exhibits to explain that.
Cures? We're really not cures at all.
And having everything right in front of them to see visually, I mean, they're sitting in this room and they can see exactly what a medical office would look like, and all the little, unique little bottles that were in there. I mean, some of the kids noticed, the words on the bottles and what it looked like, and that's just an amazing learning experience.
A 1940s garage on the property was converted into a library in 1993. Called the Sween Research Library after its first librarian and longtime volunteer, it offers reference and archival resources for genealogists and local historians. The collection includes more than 5,000 books, hundreds of church and cemetery records, family histories, maps, land plats, newspapers, school yearbooks, and more than 7,000 photos, slides, glass plates, and daguerreotypes, some dating back to the Civil War.
All sorts of places in the county feature images from the Montgomery County Historical Society. Various commercial companies come to use images to decorate restaurants, banks, nursing homes, business establishments. We answer inquiries, myself and volunteers, field questions regularly from the local newspapers, from the Washington Post, from various news stations about topics of county history. We have space in the library for several researchers, and often it is a very busy place to be. Not at all the quiet, typical research library, because we're here to help you do your research for Montgomery County history and Montgomery County families.
Nice to meet you.
Glad to meet you, Jane.
Nice to meet you.
Well, the library was originally located on the second floor of the Bell Dawson House, and we sat around the table and pushed papers around. It consisted of probably one file cabinet and a small bookcase. But books are heavy, and they found cracks in the ceiling of the parlor below, so they said we must move to a first floor location. So we took over what had been the garage and moved the library there.
Jane Sween is still coming every week to her namesake library to assist researchers.
I am looking up historic African American settlements in Montgomery County, Maryland. It's through a project called Breaking New Ground, so we're collecting oral histories from from the descendants of these farmers and black landowners.
Here's a Perry. Okay. I realize, wait a minute.
I'm here to research my family history. I found out about being a descendant of Edward IV, King of England, through his lover.
So you're royalty.
Yeah, we're talking blue blood here. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd say a large percentage are doing genealogical research. Others varies from tracing an old house to their community to their church. And so there are various reasons for looking into the history of the area.
I'm working on information for the Historic District Commission, which is meeting this week to decide the fate of the Prettyman House. It's on the national list of for the National Trust. It's actually federally recognized, and then also locally from the city of Rockville.
The Education and Outreach Department keeps things interesting too. In addition to the on-site educational tours for 4th and 5th graders, there are docent-led and self-guided museum tours for the general public, walking tours of historic neighborhoods, Heritage Days, an annual event sponsored by Heritage Montgomery held each June, Happy Birthday Montgomery County, celebrating the founding of Montgomery County in September 1776, Montgomery County History Day, a county-wide competition for middle and high school students leading to the National History Day contest, an annual history conference for local historians as well as the general public, a speakers bureau that includes roughly 100 presentations each year, many by reenactors, and the Genealogy Club, which hosts a monthly meeting and workshops.
I mean, this just comes out of my genealogy program.
One of the things I love most to do is go to cemeteries. And the very first time I did that and came upon a place where my great-great-great-great or whatever was buried, I mean, you just kind of felt you were in their presence and some connection with them, that you were keeping on the flame, as it were, of the family.
Curiosity brings many volunteers to the society as well.
A lot of the medicinal plants are named so that people can come and see what they look like.
We're volunteers looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
And so he came in.
Oh, really?
Isn't that great?
I love meeting people, engaging with them about history, everything bottom line, history.
White House and torch the Capitol.
And I get a big kick out of seeing their response when you start pulling out the fashions and showing them this is what you would have worn in 1775, and the kids get a big kick out of the 1860s when you start bringing out the ladies' fashions.
And I'm a biologist by background, and I was an Army medic during the 1960s, so I guess maybe those things fuel my interest a bit.
I'm a volunteer here for about 4 months. Before I came to the United States, when I studied in university, I take a part-time job as a teacher to teach children English and teach foreign children Chinese. I think I could practice my English here, so it's a good position for me.
High school students have opportunities to work for Student Service Learning Credits, a requirement for graduation.
I am transcribing a diary from Caroline Farquhar, who is a woman from Montgomery County around the turn of the century. Right now, her diary is in the year 1897.
And for all the volunteers, interns, and members, there is an annual meeting, parties, and training sessions. This is a great place to meet new people. While its mission is our cultural past, the Historical Society has never shied away from new technology. Its website, montgomeryhistory.org, offers not only visitor information, but also online exhibits, historical abstracts, social media opportunities, and more.
A Fine Collection is a weekly blog that I write. We have all these fantastic things in storage, and I want them to be out and people to know that they exist and they have wonderful stories. So once a week I pick an artifact. Sometimes it's from my collection, sometimes it's from the library. So I really enjoy it. Hopefully my readers think it's fun too.
Montgomery Connections is a project that interprets local history in 3 languages. It includes an online element, an audio element,
我是 Fred Van Housen. 1917年
and ways to connect the community.
Hello, I'm the first
Extension 8.
And partnering with local government, a 15-minute television show called Paths to the Present appears on the MCHS website, as well as on local cable stations and YouTube. The show has won national awards.
In the summertime, one popular pastime was listening to or playing in the community band. Now, more than 125 years later, that same band still plays together.
As the Montgomery County Historical Society moves forward, its continuing aim is to reach out to and engage every member of the community. Local history is not just for descendants of our founding fathers, it's for the children of our most recent arrivals, too.
Local history is important in relating the lives of current residents to those of past residents here in Montgomery County, and relating the experiences of those in the past to the experiences of those who live here currently.
Won't you join us? Won't you share our history, your history? We'd love to hear it. For more information about the Montgomery County Historical Society, please call 301-340-2825 or go to montgomeryhistory.org.